All right. Okay, gang, we're going to do, today we're doing, what are we doing, short sales? Is that what we have on there? Okay, good, because that's what I'm ready for. All right, most of what we're going to do today, I'd like this to be a little bit more of an open dialogue. So it seems like a lot of our classes are a lot of me talking and you guys listening. So let's come up with some scenarios. Let's have a little bit of dialogue, and we'll see if we can't make this maybe a little more fun, which should be good considering I am not feeling well today. So I'm not on my A game, so to speak. Okay, where we're going to start is on our website. Okay. And the reason we're going to start on our website is because on our website we have all of the forms for the CDPE. Is there anybody who's got the CDPE designation in the room? Okay. What that is, if you've never heard of it, is CDPE is an acronym for Certified Distressed Property Expert. Okay. They did not exist as an organization or a designation 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, and not that short sales just started 3 or 4 years ago, because we've been doing short sales forever. You know, the short sales are not a creation of the most recent real estate down cycle. They've been around for, I did them in the 90s. Now, having said that, they've evolved. They have changed dramatically. So anyway, where we're going to start is on our website. If you go to the, you've got to go to the agent portal. There's a lot of goodies in here if you're not familiar with this. So on the far right side, or excuse me, far left side, scroll down under Other. You've got portal agents, portal staff, portal managers, but portal agents, that's what you're looking for. When you click on the agent portal, I've already logged in, so it's not going to ask me for a password. But if you're logging in for the first time, it will ask you for a password. It is protected. Okay. The password to get in is CBPRE agent with no S at the end. AGENT. Okay. Once you put the password in correctly, it will take you to this screen, and this is where our training calendar is, our market data, agent news, so on and so forth. A bunch of little doodads of what we're doing. You want to go to the agent, excuse me, I'm going to keep going, scroll past that, and you want to go to agent forms, okay, near the bottom. When you're at the agent forms, you can either click on the icon or click on view page, either one, and that's going to give you a whole bunch of forms. Now, some of the forms that we are, not some of the forms, all of the forms that we're going to discuss today are in the short sale forms. Okay? So, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through these forms kind of one by one, which is then going to prompt kind of the discussion as to relate how we do the short sale and how, you know, whether this is a transaction we want to move forward with or not. Now, and unfortunately, I don't think these are in any specific order. Matter of fact, they're probably not in the order we want them, so we may jump around a little bit. But one thing, before you even get to this point, we did a prospecting class last week, and it was a for sale by owner, expired listings, notice of sale, notice of default. Okay. One thing that before you sit down and take a short sale listing, you need to do your due diligence. Okay. Is this a property that you have a reasonable, successful opportunity to close? If it is not, you should not be taking this listing. Okay. This is not charity. Don't take these listings because you feel sorry for them and you want to help them out. Okay? You're going to put a lot of time, tremendous amount of energy and effort into closing these transactions. And if you don't close, you don't get paid. And sometimes even if you do close, you don't get paid. Okay? Or you get paid significantly less. Okay? That's just the nature of these type of short sale transactions. You know, there's kind of a good news and a bad news when it comes to compensation on short sales. The good news is if you do have a short sale candidate, you're sitting down with a seller, and you've determined this is a candidate of somebody I'm going to work at. We'll talk about whether they're a good candidate or not. But if you've agreed, yes, they are, do they normally argue with you over the commission? On a short sale, they normally don't, because the bank's paying for it. So you say 6%, you could say 8%. Most of the sellers, whatever, I'm not getting anything anyway. Resist the temptation to put in a 7% or an 8% commission, because right off the bat, the bank is going to chop that down. Okay, but the good news is normally the sellers won't argue over a 6% commission with you. Okay, if they do, I would suggest that that's not a seller that you want to work with anyway. You know, I mean, they're not paying it. You're going to argue over commission on a short. If anything, we should keep our commission rates where we think our value is, and never negotiate on a short sale, because you will never work harder on a transaction than you have on a short sale deal. Never work harder. So, at any rate, they don't argue with you in the beginning over compensation, but then normally you have a fight with somebody. If it's not the bank negotiating the commission at a later date, which sometimes they do, they'll sit back and say, no, we're only going to pay X amount of dollars for the short sale, or commissions rather. But if it's not them, there's something else that comes up. The short sale is approved, you're now getting ready to close, and the septic tank won't cert. Or it rains, and a roof leak appears that wasn't there in the beginning. Buyers and sellers buy, I don't want to do it, so I don't have any money. And here you are 9 months into negotiating this deal. You've got X amount of dollars on a commission, and you got to the point where the only way I'm going to get any money out of this is if I pay for the roof, or I pay for the septic, or whatever. It happens all the time. Sellers feel under no obligation to pay anything. You know, I've got a short sale going on with a buddy of mine down in the desert right now. We have about a $7,000 problem, which is a lot of money, but this is on a $520,000 short sale that the seller purchased this property for $900,000. So in comparison to the overall purchase price, and the seller hasn't made house payments for at least a year and a half. I mean, his house payment on a $800,000 loan, I don't know, but it was probably $4 grand. Okay, so it was really, we're talking about 2 months worth of house payments. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, you haven't made a house payment in 18 months. Do you think you could just kick in the equivalent of what 2 house payments would have been, so we can get this done? And of course, the answer was no. You know. And then the buyer, are the buyers, you know, always excited, or do the buyers always have the ability to kick in the extra money? Because a lot of the buyers are, you know, they're thin as well. You know, low down payments or little down payment, whatever it happens to be. So who do they turn to? They turn to their agent. And frankly, even if they don't turn to the agent, a lot of times the agents turn to the agents, because I'm into this for 8 months, we're almost to the finish line. How are we going to solve this problem? What are we going to do to solve this problem? So again, short sales are not for the weak at heart. Okay, these transactions, quite honestly, will kill a good agent. Okay, if you're looking for a good reason to get out of the real estate business, become a short sale expert. Okay. All right, that's probably a little bit of an overstatement. But I will tell you, are there people who do very, 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 very well doing short sale transactions and make a lot of money? Absolutely. They have a knack for it. They're good at it. They enjoy it. Diane Arnott in our office is a perfect example. Okay, Diane would say, Lance, that's funny, you know. But the reality is, if we were to interview 100 agents who have all done a short sale transaction in the last 6 months, I bet well over 90% of them will describe that as a horrible experience all the way around, from the process to the compensation to the whole deal. And if they had to do it over again, they probably, irrespective of whether they represented the buyer or the seller, okay? Because even though there's a lot more work involved when you're representing the seller and follow through, in my case, the short sale that we're going to talk a little bit about today, I'm going to talk about 2 of them, but on this particular one out in the desert, I'm representing the buyer. Not really a lot for the buyer's agent and the buyer to do during a 7-month window, except wait. Okay? and either get disappointed. You know, this particular transaction, the goal was to try to get it closed before Christmas. Well, that didn't happen. Okay. Now we'd like to get it closed before this April date. That may happen, but it's tough. I mean, it's a tough transaction. And then, frankly, a lot of buyers lose faith in the process, and frankly, a lot of that loss in faith gets transferred over to their agent. Well, it's your fault. It's your fault. What are you not doing that you should be doing to make my transaction close? Okay, so they're tough. All right, so what we're going to do, and I'm probably going to need a little help from you guys because I'm going to skip around, and I do want to go through as many of these as possible. There's a seller interview question in here, and we need to rename these. These forms, A, B, C, D, elemental P, blah, 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 these are actually what they're called by the CDPE organization. Okay? And by the way, if you are not a CDPE, you probably need to look into it. It's a 2-day course, 6 to 8 hours per day. It's not cheap. It's $700. Okay? When you get the you will learn some stuff. We're going to do maybe 2 hours today. We're going to do a condensed version, quite honestly, of the CDPE class. I could easily, I suppose, do a 2-day class on short sales, but you should learn a little bit. If you've done a transaction before, if you've done a short sale transaction before, you probably will learn very little, if anything, by attending the CDPE class. Having said that, there's some good stuff. There's some very, very good stuff here. Okay, so let's just go through the forms, and then we'll just kind of see where this takes us. This is a seller interview question. So this is nice. I like this because this helps you so you don't have to go through and memorize all this stuff. Pull out the questionnaire. These are the type of questions, quite honestly, when you are door knocking and prospecting, or when that person calls you on the phone and says, hey, I'd like to sit down and discuss a short sale with you, you need to have this. If you don't have, even if you have this memorized, you know, get your list out. Let's ask some questions. Is your property already on the market? Yes or no? Is it listed? Yes or no? I don't know if it asks this later on, but it begs me to ask another question. If it's not on the market now, was it on the market? Were you listed 3 months ago, 6 months ago? What was your price? What was the problem? Did you get any offers? What happened? Well, some of that information you guys can get from the MLS anyway. As a matter of fact, some of that information you may have already gotten from the MLS. Maybe you were prospecting for expired short sale listings. Okay? That might not be a bad resource. Expired short sale listings. So it'll tell you, yes, they were listed for this much, and this is how long they were on the market. So, when was the property purchased? Why do we want to know that?
So we can guess what situation they're in. If it was in 2005,
yeah,
they're way under.
Oh yeah, when did you get this? All right. What did you buy it for? Now again, if we are the area expert, frankly, when they bought it is probably not as important as for how much they paid for it. So hey, I paid $500,000 for it, which means nothing, really. What the real question should be, and maybe it's on here, is how much you owe on it. I don't really care what you paid for it, or when you paid for it necessarily. I want to know how much you owe. So anyway, when was the property purchased? What was the original purchase price? Who's on title? This is, oh, by the way, some of these questions, so far all of these questions are good questions to ask any seller, whether they're short sale candidate or not. Okay? I mean, this is information that you need to know. Okay, and I like this one. Who is on title? Why is that important?
Because they're the ones who can sell it.
That's correct. And not only they're the ones who can sell it, they're the ones who are going to be required to be on board to sell it. Okay? You have a husband and wife. You aren't getting along. Things are going bad. The wife thinks it's a great idea to do a short sale. The husband says, I don't care. Or actually, the husband says, you think it's a good idea, therefore I think it's a bad idea. Just because, right? Well, guess what? If both parties will not sign on the line that is dotted, we don't have a short sale. We can't sell the property. Well, wait a minute, Lance. The bank's the one that really determines it. Who owns the property? Who owns the property? The owner. The owner. The owner owns the property. The bank does not own the property. We could have an argument, kind of, yeah, sort of they do. But from a title standpoint, the property is owned by the mortgage holder, the seller, the owner. Okay? So now the bank ultimately in a short sale situation is truly going to be the one who's going to have the authority to bless the sale. But that also assumes that all the parties are going to sign. Who is on the mortgage? Is it possible to have John and Sally Smith, owner, and the mortgage under somebody else's name? Yeah, happens all the time. Happens all the time. People quit claim. Maybe they buy the property for a kid and they quit claim off. So you want to know who was on the mortgage, and it's important you have that information. It's important you have that information because let's pretend I'm on the loan, but I quit claim the property over to my son and his wife. Okay? But I basically got the loan. Now I have a short sale problem. My son and his wife have stopped making the payments to my, happy surprise. Okay? Because whose credit's going to be affected by that?
Yours.
Mine. Okay, they decide they want to do a short sale. They list the property for sale. They sign on the line that is dotted that says we want to sell the house. Who is the bank going to talk to in relation to the short sale? Them or me?
You.
Me. Okay? So it's important we get that, figure out who is that. And that happens a lot. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of situations. Yeah.
So is that possible? What would happen? Because there has to be the hardship letter, right? If you're in an okay position that they're going to be like, you know what, you got to square this way with your dad, I can't help you?
Could be a big, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That could be a problem. Maybe not. We're going to talk about some things that used to be problems. Absolutely 100% disqualifiers. Okay? That today are not as big a problems as we need. You need something? Why don't you just hit a quick little timeout on that? It's the record button. I think it's on the top back. Okay, we're back. So, picking up where we left off, if you've got a, where did we leave off? We left
hardship, I guess, and then you went
Hardship
to else about
Okay.
that.
Yeah, and
Hardship if there are different people.
and I think
like
where I
on
was
mortgage.
going, where I was going with that is when we get to that part, I'll give you the brief summary of things you used to have in place in order to get a short sale. For example, let's do a few of them now. Back in the day, and I'm talking a couple years ago, okay, certainly back in the 90s, but, and by the way, for those of you on tape, today's January 9th, 2012, okay, 18 months ago, if you did not occupy the property as an owner-occupant, getting a short sale was nearly impossible. Now, I'm going to make some blanket statements. When I make broad blanket statements, it's going to apply to 95% of the cases. So there are always going to be exceptions to every single one of these rules because there really are no rules. Fannie and Freddie operate in a certain way. In-house properties with Chase or with WAMU portfolio loans may have a few different rules that they're going to follow. A small private community bank may be more willing to do certain things than somebody else isn't to do. But generally speaking, if the property was not owner-occupied, then you could forget it. Okay? So in other words, if you had a rental, or you had a house that you were tenant-occupying or renting out, and you said, I want to short sale this house, it was pretty much a 100% disqualifier. Now that's not the case today. Okay? Same thing with hardships, you used to have a hardship. Okay? As a matter of fact, every single short sale that you're going to do, they're going to ask you for the hardship letter. Okay? Well, the hardship today is the real estate market is bad. My tenant moved out. Okay? Not that I lost my job. Not that I don't have any money. Because if they were to finish the sentence is, well, do you still have a job? Yes. Can you still afford to make the payment? Yes. Do you have money in the bank? Yes. So, short sales now are being done in a lot of cases just because it's been convenient for the seller to walk away. And the banks are so far under the barrel on these things. And walking away has become, it kind of reminds me of bankruptcy. I'm not that old, I'm 45 years old, but I can remember when I was in my early 20s dealing with clients that were going through bankruptcy, nobody wanted to talk about that. They were embarrassed by it. Now I'll have clients that I haven't talked to in years, and the very first thing they'll do is, "Hey Lance, how's it going? Hey, I just filed bankruptcy, and I'm thinking about," wow, that's a little different. It's a little shift in kind of the culture and the mentality of whether there was a stigma to bankruptcy or not. Which, by the way, bankruptcy is a lot harder to do today than it was even a few years ago. They changed the bankruptcy rules just a few years ago. But anyway, foreclosure is kind of, I think, kind of going down that same path. To lose your property to foreclosure 4 or 5 years ago, I think probably had a little bit more of a sting and a little pain to it than it does today. Because now today, let's face it, we all know somebody. We may be them, okay? We know a friend, a family member, a neighbor, or ourselves who have lost a property to foreclosure, and it's kind of like, yeah, you too? Oh, geez. All right, I'm not alone. So, with keeping that in mind, with the banks and their willingness to do things, if they know that the client is less inclined to see a stigma or a problem with foreclosure and basically more willing to let the property go to foreclosure, that's a bad thing for the banks. Because in most cases, short sales do make a much better business transaction for the bank, okay? Whereas before, even though they knew it was a better business transaction, they play hardball. They push back, because they knew you're going to have that foreclosure, you're going to have the credit problem, you're never going to be able to get a loan, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. Of which, almost none of those things are a problem anymore. Well, you're going to have a credit problem. How long is it going to be on your credit for? 7 years, okay? Is it going to prevent you from buying another house?
No.
No.
Not for 7 years.
Not for 7 years. 2 years. I've heard some lenders say 12 months, 18 months. I'd like to see what kind of financing they're getting. But for certain, a couple years, certainly 3, 4 years out, credit's probably going to be reestablished. You'll probably get a pretty good loan. We just closed a loan last Friday for a client who has had 2 foreclosures. And one of them 11 years ago, and one of them 18 months ago. And they just bought the house. VA loan. Just closed escrow Friday. Who would have thought? So, at any rate, getting a little hung up on the mortgage. Okay, what kind of mortgage? Oh, all right, well, maybe I segued nicely. What kind of mortgage do you have? Is it conventional? Is it VA? Is it FHA? What's a HELOC?
Equity line.
Home equity line of credit. HELOC. Okay? HELOC, home equity line of credit. Second trustee equity line, very, very common. And if so, how many of these do you have? I got a first, I got a second, I got a third, I got a fourth, I got a fifth. Okay? Is that important?
Yes.
And again, in any context, whether it's a short sale listing or regular listing, it's important. The more loans, the more difficult the transaction is going to be. The more loans, the more people have to agree and nod up and down and say yes before you're going to get that transaction done. Ideally, 1 loan, 2 loans with the same bank, but that's still not always. You got to remember, we talked about this in another class. You have 2 loans with Bank of America. You would think that that's a no-brainer, okay? Money's right pocket, left pocket. That's not the way these loans are bundled, okay? The first trustee with Bank of America is bundled in the first trustee portfolio, and it has a list of investors that are expecting certain returns. And you go to that group of investors and you get your short sale approved or disapproved. The second trustee with Bank of America may be bundled to a completely different group of different people that may need to say yes just because it has a Bank of America title on it. So anyway, in third loans, problematic. Who is or who are the lenders? Again, are they the same bank? Are they different banks? Are they private individuals? Okay? Very, very important. There's a new law that took effect that talks about in the event a lender agrees to a short sale, first or second lien holder, doesn't matter. By agreeing to the short sale, the lender is automatically agreeing that they will not pursue the borrower for any sort of a deficiency. Okay? Now there's different rules on purchase money loans and non-purchase money loans. So let me segue into purchase money and non-purchase money for a little bit. Purchase money loans, just think of, and when someone says, is it a purchase money loan, is that the loan you use to purchase the house? Okay? there's a certain set of rules that apply to purchase money loans as far as are they subject to deficiency judgments, and basically what can the bank do post foreclosure. Okay, they're somewhat limited. Okay, non-purchase money loans is anything other than the first loan you use to buy the house, which normally non-purchase money loans are called what?
Second.
Or the second could be a purchase money. It's a refi. Okay, if you go and you refi your property, everyone says, "Oh, I gotta go out. I gotta refi. I want to refi because I'm going to get a lower rate." Okay, well that's all well and good, but when you refi your property, that is no longer a purchase money loan because you already own the house. You purchased it with loan number one. Loan number two, the refi you did 2 years later, is non-purchase money. You already bought it. The rules are different on non-purchase money. The banks are allowed to go after deficiencies. They are allowed to do all these things. But there's been a lot of changes to the rules that govern short sales over the last few years. One of those changes is if the bank says, which by the way, a bank could have previously said, "I'll agree to a short sale. You owe me $150, I'll take $120. You do the short sale, but in the fine print, you didn't realize that the bank said, well, they agreed to do the short sale, but they did not agree to walk away from the 30 grand. So now they're sending you a bill for 30,000 bucks. Okay? Now, that does not normally happen, okay? But it can happen. But anyway, the new law that came out said, and I believe this is January of last year, so I think we're 1 year into this now. Or no, I take that back. I think it just kicked in, actually. I think it just kicked in. Either this January or a few months back. Says if a bank agrees to do a short sale, they're therefore barred from going after a deficiency. Now, most of the times when we think about, and the reason they're doing that is they're trying to protect the consumer, right? The legislators are saying, let's protect the consumer. We don't want these consumers going through these short sales and then getting hit over the head, 6 months later with a big bill from the bank. Okay? Makes sense? Makes sense. Now, whose money who's on these mortgages? These mortgages are owned by people. Okay? It's not just the evil Wall Street corporate types. These mortgages are held by people. And when I say people, who's investing in Wall Street? Well, we're a bunch of independent contractors here, but does anybody know a firefighter or a policeman or a teacher or a teamster or anybody in a union or the bagger at the grocery store? Well, they invest their pension funds where?
Wall Street.
They invest their pension funds. That's why I cringe a little bit when we talk about this evil Wall Street. And well, you better be careful what you ask for because that's funding the 6th grade school teacher's pension. And if we're going to destroy Wall Street, well, we might have a problem paying this 6th grade teacher's pension here down the road. Okay? But to put that in context of these mortgages, now the law says you cannot come after a deficiency if you agree to a short sale. So let's suppose I'm a private second trustee or I have a $50,000 second. And let's suppose I'm willing to do something, but I'm not willing to walk away from all 50. I want 25, I want 20. Okay? Well, you got to remember, whatever I agree to is all I can get. What do we normally try to do on these smaller seconds? What do we want them to do? We want them to go away, right? Completely, for little or no money. Now, previously, these seconds would go away for little or no money, but they always reserved the right to come after you later. Okay? Or they said, I'll take nothing now, but I want this. The problem now is there's literally, if you have a second that is basically being told, like on the transaction that I was just going through, we're not going to give you anything. There is no incentive at all for the second to approve that short sale. So go to foreclosure. Because if they go to foreclosure, can they come back on the deficiency? Especially on the non-purchase money seconds, they could come back. Now, they don't normally do this, but they could do that. They say, let them go to foreclosure. I'm not going to agree to a short sale to take nothing because then I'm truly writing everything off the books right up front. There's a lot of little idiosyncrasies behind it, and frankly, the rules are changing all the time. So, who are our lenders? Who are you who are you? Thank you. Are you living in the property? If not, where are you living? And is the property being maintained? Okay, it's good. You need to know that. Who's in the house? And what does it look like? Okay. By the way, if you have a seller who is not living in the property, or even if they are living in the property, but they are not maintaining the property, it looks terrible inside and out, don't take that. Why do you want your sign out in front of that? You know, if they can't at least keep the grass cut, I'm not sure that's a client I want to deal with. I really don't. You know, I'm not making my mortgage payment. I'm letting the thing go. I want to get out of here scot-free. I got cars parked on the grass. I got trash all over the place. I took a short sale listing which I couldn't sell. Surprise. The property literally had dog feces everywhere. Did anybody go in and look at McKinsey?
I did.
You wanted to get out of there as quick as you could.
My customers walked in, took 3 steps, and
Walked out.
Yeah.
I should not have taken that sale. That was my fault. I wasted your time. I shouldn't have taken it. The only reason I took it, to be honest with you, is because Chase Bank actually called me directly and said, please take this. Okay? But that was unsolvable. Oh, by the way, guess what happened to that house? Went to foreclosure. Nobody's going to, nobody could look past that.
Sell it
Make
at the
sure they take,
courthouse?
what's that?
Are they going to sell it at the courthouse, or did they already?
It's gone to foreclosure. It's owned by Chase. It'll be listed now, as a matter of fact, I believe, as a bank owner. Okay, who's living in it? What is the condition of the property? What repairs are needed? Okay? Again, remember, just because it's a short sale, they don't have any money, they're not making their house payments, they want to walk away scot-free. You still need to say, do I have a sellable property? Is this a piece of inventory that I'm going to be proud to put my sign in front of? If they're not maintaining it, they're not taking care of it, they're not willing to do the most basic and elementary of repairs, I say you don't want it, okay? Because you're going to end up with problems. If you're relocating, when do you have to move? Is this important? Let's suppose they're in the house, and we have a real quick short sale, and we get it approved. And now all of a sudden the seller's, oh yeah, you know, it's been kind of nice. Been here for a little while now. Kind of enjoying not paying that mortgage or rent. Oh crud, now we're going to close escrow next week and I have to move and I got to go pay rent. I got to come up with first, yeah, all shucks, okay? Make sure you've got a client who is prepared to move, okay? And it may sound silly. Ask them, oh, by the way, I know this is a silly question because based on our conversation, I know you haven't made your house payment in 2 years. But if we were to get lucky and we were to get this thing approved and actually be prepared to close escrow in the next 30 to 60 days, do you have enough money to pay first and last month's rent? I think you'd be surprised how many people say no. I don't have enough money to pay first and last month's rent. So make sure you're ready to relocate, because if they're not, you're in trouble. If you are relocating, when do you have to move? Approximately how much do you owe? I think we're talking about our mortgage here. Are you up to date? Are you up to date with your condo and your homeowners association? Is that important?
Yes.
Can those scuttle a deal?
Yes.
Darn straight.
Oh, yeah.
They can scuttle it. Now keep in mind, from a priority, okay, we've had, who's had them scuttle a deal? Well, I got 2 hands up here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the deal. Mortgages are in a senior position over homeowners association. The hierarchy of priority on liens: property taxes, first trust deed, yes. The second trust deed, yes. The third trust deed, the fourth, fifth, sixth, then homeowners association dues. Now, just because they're in an inferior position to the first and the second, that does not mean you don't have to go in a foreclosure situation. Okay, they're wiped out. Keep it in mind. This is kind of a sidebar. If you are selling a property in a homeowners association and the owner has not paid their associate, which is very common, and the property goes to foreclosure, is the homeowners association's homeowner still responsible to pay those back dues? Can the association go after them?
Yes.
Yes. Homeowners association dues are not treated the same fashion. They're not extinguished, so to speak, like a mortgage is, a purchase money mortgage. The homeowners association could sue you after a foreclosure. Sue you What do you mean, man? I lost the property. You're pouring salt in my wounds. I lost the property to foreclosure 6 months ago, and now I got a summons and complaint for $3,400 in unpaid homeowners association dues. Well, guess what happens? You're going to go to the small claims judge, and the management company is going to say, well, Your Honor, what the $3,400 represented was homeowners association dues, which represented insurance, trash service, lawn service, maybe they paid the water bill,
Pool service,
whatever. They're a pro rata share. When you sign your contracts and you purchase into a homeowners association, in almost every single case, you are agreeing that you are personally responsible to pay those associations. So in a short sale situation, even though the first and the second have priority from a standpoint of who we have to deal with first, if everybody's not nodding up and down saying we agree, and this is how much we agree to take, including the homeowners association, you got no deal. Association says, hey, I want $5,000. The parties are like, nothing. Well, this is the nice part about it from an association's perspective. They do really have a hammer, okay? And we manage homeowners associations in this office. And we're professional about it, and we're polite about it. It's like, hey, you might as well deal with me now because I'm going to sue you. So let's work something out today. Why don't you give me 50% now, and then we'll make payment arrangements. What do you mean make payment? Yeah, then you can pay, 12 equal payments, pay the whole thing off in the next 12 months. Yeah, but I'm going to close escrow. I'm going to have escrow close in a month. I know, and you're going to be making homeowners association payments for the next 12 months. Well, I don't want to do that. Okay, fine, I'll see you in court. Now, the reality is, most homeowners associations are not that aggressive. They really aren't. But they can be. So, are you current on your association? If not, how many months behind are you? And who do I contact at the home? Who's your management company? Okay? You better be prepared to deal with them up front. Very, very important.
I had a situation with that on with one of my condos. My client owes over $5,000.
Yep.
And part of it was special assessments.
Yep.
And they put a lien on the property.
Yep.
And went to the attorney and everything. But I was lucky to sell it, and actually the bank paid for it.
Well, that's another thing.
It was,
A lot of times you can get the bank
I was
to
shocked.
pay all or a portion of it.
Yeah.
Again,
They
not
agreed to it.
something that the banks used to do. We're in a whole new world of short sale environment. And by the way, even though my earlier comment was kind of like, oh my God, these short sales are going to kill us all. Well, guess what? REO broker, okay, I don't have any REO listings. Standard sale, there's not as many standard equity sellers out there, okay. Buyers, I love working with buyers, but I'd like to have some listings. What's going to be the largest percentage of listings available to most agents in this market right now?
short sales.
Short sales. Are they going to be tougher than regular ones? Yes. Suck it up.
Right.
Go out and do it.
Yeah.
Take care of these clients.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you do a good job, because we're in this business for the long haul, right? You're going to plant a yard sign in there, you're going to pick up some buyers, you're going to pick up some business from that. You're going to do a superb job for your seller. Okay, I think I made a statement earlier about, it's a little self-serving and maybe a little harsh as it relates to, why we're doing this. I got to tell you, if you can help one of these sellers get these transactions closed, it is a fantastic feeling. Especially when you take somebody out from underneath that stress and out from underneath that debt, and you've helped them put that behind them, and they're moving on, and they're free from the burden of the mortgage and the stress associated with it. I got to tell you, you do it right, you will have a client for life.
Right.
Okay, and those sellers that you busted your tail on, if you stay in contact with them, they will remember you 2 years later and 3 years later when it comes time to buy. Say, gosh, Martin, you did such a great job for me, and I know it was so tough, and I know you had to give away half your commission, and we really felt terrible about it. But now it's 3 years later, and I want to make it up to you. We're ready to buy. Come on down, okay? So anyway, take care of those clients and nurture them. Okay, do you owe back taxes? Are there liens on the property? You need to know that. Normally, who ends up picking up the back taxes?
Bank.
The bank, okay? The liens, this could be an association lien or other type of lien. Depending upon what it is, normally who ends up picking those up?
Bank.
The bank, okay? Not always, though. have you considered or are you considering declaring bankruptcy? This is, again, a great, by the way, we're talking short sale. I like this questionnaire for all my listings so far. There's nothing about this questionnaire that I would not want to ask a standard equity seller. So far, on question 14, these are just as good as for short sale sellers as they are for regular sellers. What's the problem if you've got a client who's declared bankruptcy?
You need to know how long ago.
Okay. Can you complete a short sale when you have a client in bankruptcy? No. Can you close an escrow with a seller in bankruptcy?
No.
No. Can't do it. Okay? So, yes, I file bankruptcy. What's the status? Has the bankruptcy been discharged? Who's your attorney? What was the discharge date? Okay? No, it hasn't been discharged, by the way, is just it's done. Okay? It's gone through the process, the bankruptcy's over, it's been discharged, the debts have been discharged. Okay? Which, by the way, can you file bankruptcy on your house? No.
Yeah.
No. Well, it affects the house. Keeping in mind, okay, let's a couple examples. I have a $100,000 mortgage, I have a $10,000 car payment, and I've got $100,000 in credit cards. Credit cards are unsecured debt, right? The car is secured debt. The loan is secured by what? The car. And the house is secured debt, secured by
land.
the land of the house. Okay? So when I file bankruptcy, I'm not discharging the $100,000 house mortgage loan. I'm not discharging the debt on the car. What happens to the car if I don't make the payment?
It's repo.
They repo. Same thing with the house. Okay? What I'm really trying to take care of is the bankruptcy, for the most part, is to deal with unsecured debt, my $100,000 worth of credit cards. So I make those go away. But the problem is, why I'm trying to make this $100,000 in credit card debt go away, I have now basically I've completely eliminated my ability to do anything with my house. So if you have a client, and this happens all the time, you've got the short sale thing going on, you're trucking right along, it's 7, 8, 9 months later, you finally get what you need, and you're ready to roll, and you get your approval, and you open up the title, and you get the escrow thing fired up, and all of a sudden, title calls you up and says, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Seller filed bankruptcy 2 months ago. What? So by the way, if we're having this discussion with them in January, we want to say, oh, and by the way, if you are considering filing bankruptcy, you need to talk to me first, because I can't sell your house while you're in bankruptcy. Okay? The bankruptcy either has to be discharged, or, help me, the term is escaping me, we have to go and petition the court, and the house needs to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Needs to be not vacated, it needs to be...
Liquidated?
No.
Expunged?
No, those are great words.
Criminal.
Right. At any rate, we need to do something to get the house removed from the bankruptcy. There's a word. It'll come to me.
I had a situation like that.
Yep. And you can do it, but it's not what you want. It's a pain in the rear. Okay? So if you have a client who's filed bankruptcy, you need to know about it. And if they're considering file bankruptcy, you need to make sure they understand when they should or should not do that. Okay, are you current on all your mortgage payments? And will you be able to remain current? Are you going to pay your bills? Okay? Now again, I like that question for everybody. Okay, we want to know. I'm behind. Okay? Are you currently considering a loan modification? Okay? By the way, we do not do loan modifications in this office. You are barred from doing loan modifications. We don't need it. Don't want the DRE coming in here fooling around with us trying to do loan modifications. Loan modifications are a whole other conversation for a whole other day. And bottom line is, my feelings about loan modifications are simple. If you think you qualify, call your bank. Do it yourself. Don't pay me to do it. Don't pay an attorney to do it. Do it yourself. There are plenty of people on the phone waiting to take your phone call. Do you have any other assets that would allow you to pay down your mortgage? Okay. Now, back in the day, this was a very important question. I owe $200,000 on my property. I have a $150,000 loan. I got a $50,000 deficiency that I'm working on my short sale. Okay, well, what do you got? Well, I got $1 million in liquid in the bank. I've got a $200,000 RV paid off. Got a boat down in the harbor. for, $90,000. Are those assets? Okay. The banks want to see a balance sheet, they want to see a list of assets, and they want to see, okay, how much money is this person asking us to basically eat in the short sale? And what does their balance sheet look like? What do they got? If they've got a lot of assets, the chances are the bank may say, no, pay it. Now, if they think the seller is going to let walk and it's going to be a disadvantage to the bank, even though the seller has buku assets, the bank may still grant it, but they're going to want. Now, back in the day, and I'm talking a couple years ago, if you had assets, forget it. What were a couple of things? You have to be owner occupied. If you're an investor, don't apply for a short sale. If you have assets, don't apply for a short sale. That's not true anymore. If you have assets, many people are successfully doing short sales with liquid assets in the bank. Okay, what lender cores? What have you received from the bank? Very, very important. Okay, if they're behind, if they're delinquent anymore, I'm telling you, forget about being 30 days delinquent. If most people's mortgages due on the 1st, late fees kick in on the 15th. If you don't make your payment by the 15th, some maybe by the 10th, you might be getting a letter from the bank that says, hey, borrower, are you okay? What's going on out there? It's amazing, okay? The environment has completely changed. So what have you received? Now, of course, if they have received something, what do we want? We want to see it. What do you got? Okay? There was Chase right now is doing these unbelievable short sale incentives. Has anybody ever received a letter in the bank that says, you've just been pre-approved for $100,000, all you got to do is call this 800 number and we're going to give you $100,000, right? I don't see those as much as I used to. But back, from the time I was a child till about 2006, it seems like every day I went to my mailbox, we'd open up something, somebody had pre-approved me for a $100,000 loan. Of course it was junk, right? It was a junk mail, it didn't mean anything, you had to fill out an application, and I wasn't really approved, but they were, fishing for loan business, okay? Chase is sending out letters that look kind of like that junk mail that we used to get, and it basically says, hey, you are a candidate for a Chase, I'm not using the right language, but for a Chase streamlined short sale. And if you meet A, B, C, and D criteria, and you've considered a short sale, we would encourage you to contact a local realtor, contact your Chase representative, yada, yada, yada. Oh, and then on top, I forgot to mention, on the top of the letter, just like one of those marketing pieces we used to receive, it says, Chase will pay you up to $30,000. Now, the first time I saw one of those, client, have you received it? Thinking about that, I thought, oh, I don't know what this is. This is junk. Well, guess what? It wasn't junk. Chase said, you do a short sale, we will pay you, the seller, who hasn't made a payment in 2 years, we will pay you 30 grand.
Wow.
This is not cash for keys after foreclosure. This is, please do a short sale. We're telling you we want to cooperate with you on your short sale. And if you do it, we'll give you 30 grand, 20 grand. I think the highest I've seen is 30. I've heard other people say there's more. Is that a little different?
That's a lot different.
We are in a completely different world, okay?
What's the gimmick?
Well, but there is no gimmick. Well, I'll tell you what I think the gimmick is. I think the number crunchers at Chase and a lot of these banks have done a couple of things. Number one, I think they've sat back and said, this portfolio of assets, which is non-performing, it's basically in default, is in really serious bad shape. And their bean counters have determined that this portfolio is definitely headed to foreclosure. And based upon the criteria that they've placed into that portfolio, Chase has determined that the holding cost, the carrying cost, and the processing fees of getting this property through foreclosure, through the marketing process and closed escrow is far in excess of the $30,000 that they're going to pay the seller. Because believe me, they're business people. They're not doing this to be nice, okay? They're doing this because if they expedite the short sale and they get the 30 grand, it's going to be a savings to them. Now,
Is this changing in the last, it sounds like the last 6 months or so, because the government is pressing down on a lot of these banks and saying, you've
Well-
got to get rid of this inventory, or you've got to move these houses?
I hope so. I don't know that that's the truth, but I hope that that's the truth. I do think this is part of my conspiracy, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if I was, this is one of my conspiracy theories that I think, who knows, maybe 5-6 years from now, there'll be a 60-minute story that says what I'm going to say right now. Who bought 60 Minutes a year ago? Robo-signing scandal. Who saw that? Remember Linda Green? Linda Green was this lady who signed a million different, not a million, but hundreds of thousands of loan documents certifying that certain things were in place. And Linda Green didn't exist. There was literally people, 6 of you standing around a table going through loan documents, signing your name as Linda Green. We've all heard about the robo-signing scandal. Well, that is the robo-signing, that's a piece of it. But the genesis of that was the loan documents, the terms and the price and everything was fine. If the bank said, we're going to give you a 30-year loan at 5% interest payable at X amount of dollars a month, that's what everybody agreed to. That's kind of the thing about the robo-signing. The scandal itself has nothing to do with the loan being bad. The loan is exactly what the buyer told they were going to get. Okay? The scandal is that the people who were supposed to sign all the documents to process that were not signing the documents. Okay? There's a problem with the documentation. Okay? So, what's a great way to process those loans that have bad documentation? Let's suppose, remember that pool? I said they meet these criteria. Let's suppose the bank has gone through and said, with you 4 loans over here, our auditors have gone through and there's a problem. And if we wanted to foreclose on you, and you got yourself an attorney, you could, which is, by the way, I mean, turn on the radio, listen to KFI, you can't go for one commercial break without listening to an attorney saying, hey, if you're in foreclosure, call us, let us review your loan documents, and yada, yada, we will fight for you, and yada, yada, okay? Well, I think that the banks have looked at their own documents, found a problem, and said, what's one of the easiest ways to get rid of this problem?
Buy it out.
Pay people.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you 30 grand if you do a short sale.
Yeah.
Now that problem's gone. Or, let's suppose you're performing. Let's suppose you do have a performing loan. You're making your payments. But the banks have gone through and said, oh crud, Selena's got a good loan, she's making her payment, she's a great customer, but her loan documents have got a problem on there. So what are the banks doing right now to people? Calling up, want to refi? Yeah. Good rate, get this.
They're co-opting them.
They right. So and it's good terms and it's to your benefit. You now say yes, I want to refi. What happens when you do a refi? You get a new set of loan documents. The old set of loan documents that maybe have a problem
Gone.
are now gone. We'll see. We'll see. I think there's a lot of that going on right now. Okay, so loan modification, do you have down payment? What letters have you received? What is the situation that caused you to miss or will cause you to miss the payments? What's the problem? Okay? Are some of these questions personal? Yeah. Ask them. What's the problem? Oh, I've lost my job. Health. Hardship. I lost my job. That's a hardship. Health issue. That's a hardship. So a family with the health, my husband and I both have great jobs, everything's fine, but my child is now sick. And that's a hardship. Whatever. Okay? Or it may be no. There's nothing that's changed. What's changed is the real estate market. I just can no longer bear driving down my street, pulling into my driveway, knowing I have a $400,000 mortgage when my neighbors all over the place now have $150,000 mortgages and they're selling left, right, and I just can't. I can't handle it. The stress is more than I can bear. But can you afford to make the payment? Oh yeah, I can afford it, but I don't want. I can't do it anymore.
It's too stressful.
Or it's not stressful, or it's just
That's what they say.
whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay anymore. I don't care. Okay? I'm strategically defaulted. Okay? Now, again, let's suppose they can afford to make the payment, and this is just a quote-unquote strategic default or a strategic short sale. In fact, they have no hardship. What was another one of the criteria that you used to have? A hardship. They have no hardship. Does that disqualify them from doing a short sale today? No. They can do a short sale basically with no hardship. The hardship is the real estate market stinks. I'm stressed out. Whatever. Okay? Okay. What are your current payments? Okay. How much do you pay? What is your household monthly income? How much do you make? What is your estimated monthly expenses beside the mortgage? They want a balance sheet. They're going to want an income expense statement. Do you hold any kind of security clearance? Oh, is that interesting? What an interesting question. Is that an interesting question? Is that a question that you would normally think about asking any of your clients? Why would we ask, do you hold any kind of security, like a military clearance?
Because it can mess up your security clearance.
Absolutely.
But what about that new law they just passed where you can't hire based on credit report?
You can't hire or fire based on, I don't know. I guess I need to look into that law. All I know is if you have a security clearance, whether you work directly for the government or maybe you work for a contractor that works with the government and you have a, I don't know anything about this, but you have a class 1 security clearance, these type of things can cause all sorts of problems for your employment. They now consider you maybe less trustworthy than you were before. Okay? You know, I'm on tape, I won't tell the story.
Well, you know why
Same
they
with the
consider
casinos,
that
so.
is because then they feel like people are subject to possible,
Yeah,
being bribed or
Okay.
yeah.
something like that. And that makes them more of a security risk.
Fair
The
enough.
casinos
Yeah.
do the same
Yeah, the
thing.
casinos do.
Okay. Well, okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
You
you're
have to
a
have a
risk.
certain credit, their FICO score's gotta be certain.
I'm sure they run a profile and everybody with FICO's under X amount
Yeah.
is
And
going to
then
be
every
taking
couple
money out of
years.
the cash
They
box. Going to be
review.
putting chips in their pocket, whatever that happens to be.
I did a couple short sales with some clients that worked in the casinos, and
Yep.
they had to show proof, and they had to show them, that they were doing a short sale
Right.
and different things.
Right. Okay. By the way, all of these are on the website. Click them. Oh, by the way, you can and you should make these available to your clients. You should print every single one of these off, have them in a PDF, have them in an email, ready to be sent out to your clients pre-listing appointment. Oh, by the way, thank you very much, Martin, for allowing me to come on up and talk to you this evening about possibly the short sale listing on your property. Do you have an email address? Great. I'm going to email you a dozen forms. Take a look at them. I'll see you at 5:30. Okay? Send these to your clients. Give it to them. There's nothing, give it to them. All right, so we just went through the interview questions. We're going to kind of bounce around here a little bit. I'm not necessarily in any order. There's a sample hardship letter in here. So let's take a look at what we got here. Okay, and give this to your client. This is what I don't understand. I'm not a good writer. By the way, it doesn't have to be typed. They can handwrite it. They can do whatever they want. To whom it may concern. Now, by the way, we want to fill this out. Let me. I'm actually something made me think of something. Okay, January 9th, Bank of America, attention loss mitigation. What's that? Loss mitigation is the same as the short sale department, the loss mitigation department, the workout department. There's 2 or 3 others that aren't coming to mind. Whatever. Loss prevention department. Okay. So loss mitigation. Another. Don't get hung up on that. Another word for the people who handle short sales. Okay. I call it that. This is my hardship letter. Right on there. Property address 123 Main Street. My loan number is 12345. I purchased my home in 2005. We had income that supported the mortgage. In early 2006, my mother was diagnosed with this is a real hardship letter. Okay? My mom's got a disease, I got problems, okay? Are yours going to be this good? Probably not. Okay? The market's bad. I'm stressed out. I need to get out of here. Whatever. Okay, you got your hardship letter. Let's see what else we got. Let's go back to the top. Let's see what this Form SS is. What we got here? Oh, authorization to release information. This is a must. Okay? By the way, this is probably really tough to see on the screen. I apologize. Can you hit that thing and see if we can clean that up just a little bit? I'm not going to go through this in its entirety, but basically what this is a form that your buyers need to sign, excuse me, the sellers need to sign, that say, okay, this is an agreement between the undersigned, who is the mortgage holder, and Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate, Lance Martin. Okay? I am authorizing the bank to release information to my designated person. Okay? And then down here, we have the property address, Bank of America's information, or whoever your loan holder is, their signature, and the listing agent information. Okay? You might need multiple of these. First trust deed, second trust deed. We've got a little box over here. You're going to need to get that information maybe from the homeowners association. Okay? So this basically, will the banks talk to the realtor without an authorization to release information? They will not. Okay? So that's in it. There's actually a few of these in here. That's one. Let's see what this general one is. I think it's the same form actually with a little different tweak on it. Okay. It's basically the same form. Again, you need to have your clients fill this out. They're going to sign it. They're going to give it to you. You're going to send it in to the loss mitigation department. This will allow them to talk to you. This one I think I like a little bit better than the other one. Yeah, I like this one a little bit better because you can list the first trustee and then the second trustee and the association down here. You can do it all on one form. Okay. The other one you'd have to fill out one form for every time you did it. Okay, and this is authorized by the borrower. Okay. And again, remember borrower, owner, seller. Okay. Special assessment. This is an interesting one. I don't think I've ever used this one before. This is kind of a little play on the CDPE logo and equals MC squared seller assessment. This is a little check sheet that they've come up with. I'm not going to spend any time on this, but it's a little check sheet for you to assess your seller on whether this is somebody that you want to work with. And you score them. Motivation. Is motivated and wants to do whatever they can to get out of the situation. Is motivated but is unsure if selling is the best option, but they still want to list. Is only partially motivated and does not know if they really want to sell. Is not motivated but wants to see what they can get for their property. Okay, so you score them over here. You can probably get the idea. The higher the score, when you get to the bottom of the form, it probably says if they scored 10 on all of these, this is a listing you want to take. If they scored 1 and 2 on all of these, this is probably a listing that you don't want to take. But again, interesting questions. I love asking my clients questions. I love it. Okay? Maybe I would even pull it. Now again, in theory, I don't even think you're supposed to show this to them. This is supposed to be secret. Okay? And then you can assess it. I might actually want to pull this up right in front of my seller. Hey, let me score you. Right? You ready for a test? I'm going to give you a test. Where do you fall in this level of motivation? Okay? I would suggest if they fall anywhere other than here, you do not want to take their short sale listing. Why? Can't get paid. Again, we talked about this a little bit with, by the way, again, I think you could use this with regular sellers just as well as short sellers. Communication is easy to communicate with and provides you with honest answers. This is you assessing your seller. If you have a seller who is locked up, you're having a hard time communicating. Maybe there's a language problem. I'm going to be blunt. I have this problem all the time. I have a lot of Spanish-speaking customers, and their primary language is Spanish. And they speak pretty good English, and they seem to understand me with pretty good English. But I'm always concerned that I'm not getting my message across as effectively, or frankly, I feel that they're not getting their message across as effectively. I've had this going on right now with a client of mine. She's been a client of mine for 20 years. Sweetest lady you ever met in your life. Okay? Every time I hang up the phone with her, I can feel the frustration in her that she's not able to tell me exactly what she's trying to say. She's struggling, especially with this. This is hard. Okay, there's a lot of these terms that don't translate very well. Okay? So, just from a sheer, maybe I've got the most motivated client in the world, but if there's even a little bit of a language barrier there, I might not want to say, no, I'm not going to do business with you. I might want to say, hey, I happen to know someone who speaks Spanish. Maybe she can take care of you. Work out a referral fee or something like that. Okay, so we've got this little scoring thing, and again, it's got kind of a goofy little title, but I want all of you to go to the website, download these and read them, and this is that E equals MC squared seller assessment. Hold harmless, no notary. In other words, this is a hold harmless form that does not require a notary signature. The hold harmless, who we're trying to have the hold harmless, who we want to be held harmless is us. Okay? What did I say earlier about the short sales? Sometimes they go south. In the process of going south, who does the client get upset with?
Us.
The listing agent, us. It's our fault that this is not getting done. I tell my clients this at the time we're taking the listing. Hey, I want you to sign this. What is this? It basically says if things don't go the way you think they want, I don't want you blaming me. Okay? What do you mean? There are a lot of things that can go wrong in this transaction. A lot. Okay? I'm going to do my best to minimize them. I'm going to do my best to manage them. I'm going to do my best to push this thing through. But you know what? Don't blame me if the thing is denied. Don't blame me if it takes 6 months, unless it's my fault. Well, what do you mean unless it's your fault? Well, if it took me 3 months to submit paperwork and do this and that, well then shame on me. But this is a tough deal. Basically, this hold harmless, it's a good time to have a conversation with the seller to explain the expectations and what's reasonable in the transaction. And at the same time, hey, don't hold me responsible if things don't go the way you want. Okay, let's sign this right in advance. Now again, well, wait a minute. What do you mean? If you're negligent or you misrepresent, that's not what this says. This does not say if I commit an intentional fraud or misrepresentation that I can be held harmless. It doesn't say that at all. Okay, it basically says short sales are tough. Okay, be prepared for that. Okay, so we've got a hold harmless in here. Homeowners document checklist. Just like a regular transaction, and if you have a homeowners association, actually, wait a minute, did I misread that? I did. I put the word association in there. Forget that. Homeowner document checklist. This has nothing to do with the association. That you're going to tell your seller, hey, you're going to need to go home and gather some information. I would prefer that you gather all of this information and have it ready for me tonight when I meet you to take a short sale listing. Now, if they don't have it tonight, when you leave that appointment with the signed listing agreement, you're going to remind them of the list that you've given them, and you're going to say, I need this information quickly. Well, when do you, well, okay, well, I really don't need it until we get an offer accepted, until we get it to the bank. What happens if you don't get it up front? You finally get an offer accepted, you send it in, and you say, hey, remember that stuff I told you to get a month and a half ago?
It'll be like pulling teeth.
Would you please get it? And then how long does it take them to get it? It takes them a week. Stay on them. I want 2 months. And by the way, I don't want to give you this information. Oh, you're telling me you don't want to sell your house. No, I want to sell my house. I don't want to give you this information. No, you're telling me you don't want to sell your house. If you're not prepared to give me this information, we cannot work together. Going back to that motivational chart. How willing is the client to cooperate? I need 2 months mortgage statements on every mortgage. 2 months checking account statements. Their personal checking account statements. 2 months savings account, assuming they have them. 2 months of other accounts. A retirement account, a pension account. Whoa, wait a minute. Nobody's going to come after my retirement. Nobody said they're going to come after your retirement. Nobody said they're coming after your pension. You just want to have that information. Because who is going to ask for this information? The bank. The bank who's being asked to process the short sale. Paycheck stub, assuming they have a job. Tax returns, irrespective of whether they're 1099 employees or whether they're W-2 employees. 2 years of tax returns. IRS form 4506, request for copy of tax return. That's a form that the buyer signs Do people lie on their taxes?
Sure.
Do people dummy taxes? Are people afraid to do short sales because they lied when they got the loan? Are there a few people out there that got loans 4 or 5 years ago that only got loans because they lied?
Yes.
They gave false income statements, false tax returns, false. Are those people a little hesitant now to apply for a short sale? Because in theory, what happens is, I lied to get my loan 4 or 5 years ago. Now I want to do a short sale. Well, the bank's going to, in theory, say, okay, well, we need this information, irrespective of whether I lied or not, give us this information, and they're going to take a look at you. Oh, wait a minute. You said 4 years ago you were this and you made this. Now 4 years ago you say you're doing this and you're doing that, and please connect the dots on what the income was and all the rest of it. There's a lot of people that are afraid. That's fraud. Okay? If the bank can prove mortgage fraud, and again, a lot of this mortgage mess has been couched that the banks were evil and Wall Street was evil and da-da-da-da-da. And there's probably a whole bunch of that's true. Okay? But there was also a lot of consumers out there that were doing liar's loans, stated income loans. Now, they might have been encouraged to do that by their bank. They might have even been encouraged to do it by some realtors. Oh, don't worry about that. We're going to do stated income. Stated income loan. What does that mean? You tell them how much you make. Yeah, but I only make this. No, you don't understand. You tell them how much you make. What? Yes, you have good credit, you have a large down payment. You just tell them. You mean they're not going to check? No. That's why they call it stated income. Okay? Anyway, whole thing's a disaster. Alright, so go get this information. Oh, by the way, give me a hardship. Oh, and a financial worksheet. Financial statements. What do you make? What do you owe? What are your bills? What's your monthly obligations? What do you have in the bank? They want a balance sheet, basically. Okay? Alright, so that's the information I'm looking for on my homeowner document checklist. Got to have all of that. Financial worksheet, just really quickly. This can be done. Is anybody? I'm sure everybody in this room has had to fill one of these forms out at one time or another. I got to tell you, I've applied for mortgages and business loans and all this stuff. I hate. This is worse than going to the dentist. I absolutely hate this, but it has to be done. What is your income? What is your spouse's income, if any? Part-time, retirement, blah-ba-dee-ba-da-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-doo. Okay? What are your expenses? Oh, I gotta get my auto loan out. Yes. Oh, I gotta get all my credit cards out. Yes. Okay? Gather all this information. And again, this is the one thing that, in my experience, my clients have the most difficult time providing me. They just either don't have access to the information real easy, or quite honestly, like me, you just hate looking at this stuff. You want to know how much money I spend on groceries? Yes, we do. Especially when we're trying to build a hardship case. You know, the cost of your housing is too much, okay, in relation to what it's going to cost you to survive. So make them fill this out. The homeowner checklist, where am I? Property checklist, what's this? What is this? Oh, okay, this is just a little thing. And again, this works just as well. So far, with maybe the exception of that last sheet with the financial stuff, we would not normally want to get that information from our sellers, if they're equity sellers. We also we don't need 2 years of tax returns and bank statements for equity sellers. But so far, everything else works for a regular equity seller. This is just a checklist. You know, this is similar to a CAR form. This is just for you to go through and say, what's the property look like? Is it good condition, bad condition, so on and so forth. Nothing real special about this. Listing addendum. I like this one. I like this one a lot. Okay, what this is these are, and by the way, this also works for non-short sales. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, thank you very much for trusting in me to list your property today. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to sell your house or successfully do a short sale on your house. interchangeable. We have agreed to list your property today for $192,000. Now, we've spent 4 hours discussing the fact that I think we're going to start way too high, based upon all of the data that we've discussed, and you did agree the house is probably going to sell for somewhere closer to $175. So we're a little bit off. Now, we've also discussed, and you said that if it doesn't sell in the first X amount of days, that you have agreed to reduce your price from $192 to $187, and you will do that on February 8th. And if it doesn't sell, then you will then reduce it down to X, and you will do that on March 10th. Okay? Build it in. Okay? If you have a listing and you are taking it at a price that is higher than you think you should, you build this right in. Build in your automatic price reductions. If you have a seller who will not sign this, I suggest you do not have a seller. Because what they're telling you is, no, 192. That's what it is. Wait a minute, we talked about this. You agreed that we would reduce the price, or well, yeah, I said that a few minutes ago, but I didn't know you were going to force me to do it on, okay? You don't have a seller, all right? I love this form. This is a great form. Okay, use it, and again, you don't have to use this strictly on your short sales. This works just as good on any overpriced listing that you're taking. Okay, not that we encourage it. We already did the hardship letter. We already did the interview. Short sale disclosure. By the way, I'm not going to go through the CAR disclosures, the short sale addendum. However, we could spend a good hour and a half just going over the CAR short sale addendum. It basically covers a lot of the same information. Okay. But you need to take a hard look. By the way, that's mandatory. It's mandatory in this office. If you are doing a short sale listing, or if you are writing an offer on a short sale, you have to use the CAR short sale addendums. Required. Okay? There's just no way around it. Okay, this is just a disclosure that talks about some issues. After the lender receives a short sale packet, lender may require at least 30 to 45 days to approve. After approval, short sale could take typically 30 to 45 days. That's conservative. Man, that's real. I mean, are you kidding me? It could take 4 times that long. Okay? Seller will receive no cash. Isn't that kind of the part of the deal on these? You don't get any money. Now again, I just told you Chase will pay you 30 grand. That's Chase. Chase has got a special doodad going on. In most cases, in almost all cases, seller is to receive nothing. Seller has no additional cash and will be unable to pay any closing cash and buyer's in appraisal. Okay, this is again, by the way, let's go back here. On this particular, I always like to see who's signing the form. I didn't realize who was signing this form until I just read that second line. We've got the seller signing this, we've got the agent signing this. Who else do we have signing this? Buyer. We have the buyer signing this. I love this form. I love this form because this tells the buyer that if we agree to price and terms, the seller has no additional cash and will be unable to pay for closing costs, appraisals, home warranties, anything. I just went through this yesterday on my short sale down in La Quinta. Okay? There are some issues. As much as I have a hard time believing the seller doesn't have a few bucks to put in to cure this thing because he hasn't made his payment in so long, we dealt with this. We dealt with this. And we basically have told the buyer, who's my buyer, seller's not going to contribute. Not going to contribute. You better be prepared to deal. Septic came up yesterday. Well, how much is a septic certification? Excuse me. How much does a septic inspection cost? About $500. $450, $500. By the way, be careful not to use the word that I just used. I use it all the time. Hey, we need a septic cert. Well, how much does a septic cert cost? Well, it costs $400 or $500. Well, it costs $400 or $500, assuming there's not a problem. Okay? If there's a problem, it could spend $15,000 easy, or a few $100. So a septic, it's kind of like a termite inspection. We don't really call it. Well, what's a termite certification cost? I have no idea what it costs. I can tell you what a termite inspection costs. It costs you $50 for an inspection. Then we'll find out what it will cost to certify it after we've done the inspection.
Or like
So-
a roof inspection too.
Roof inspection.
Roof cert.
Yeah. Well, but we ask for that all the time. As a matter of fact, I think we talked about that in the contracts class. You're a buyer's agent, you're looking up at the roof, you see a problem. You ask seller to pay for a roof certification at a cost not to exceed $500. Okay? Well, that's not normally how that works. If the roof is fine, roofer comes up, takes a look at it and says, okay, cool, $500. I certify that this roof will not leak for the next 3 years. Basically, it's an insurance policy, because if it leaks, who has to come up and fix the roof for the next 3 years? The roofer, okay? Now, if the roofer gets up there and says, well, this roof is not leaking today, but boy, oh boy. There's no way in the world I'm going to, in effect, guarantee or certify this roof for the next 3 years, unless I patch that and I got to take care of this. What? It's not leaking, I know, but look how worn out it is. By the grace of God, there's no water coming in this house. Okay? So how much could that cost? Well, it could cost thousands of dollars.
Easy.
Okay? So when you're writing an offer, a little off topic, but when you're writing an offer and you need a roof certification, seller to provide a roof certification at a cost to exceed X with repairs, if required, at unlimited or up to 10,000 or whatever. So if you're representing the buyer, okay. Now you want to commit. If you're representing the buyer, you want to commit the seller to put in a new roof if necessary, right? Now the flip side is true if you're representing the seller and the buyer's agent wants an open-ended check for that roof, and then you back that up and say no. The seller will pay up to $500. Anything above that, it's on you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. So then the buyer sits back and says, wow, that could be expensive to replace that roof. Do I want to proceed? Is it better to have these conversations in advance? Yes, if you're going to have a problem, and especially on the short sales. There's dozens of properties out there buyers are willing to buy. Sellers, a lot of sellers, gosh, it'd be nice if the short sale gets approved. But you know what, if it goes to foreclosure, okay. We're resigned to the fact that we might lose it. Our credit's kind of beat up anyway. You know, it's certainly better to have 12 months of delinquent payments and then a short sale as opposed to 12 months of delinquent payments and a foreclosure. But the credit's still beat up, right? You're still going to have a beat up credit in most cases when you're doing these short sales. So, okay, this just talks about what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do. I like this one. Seller's broker will split the commission blank with the buyer's broker, and any commission paid by a lender that is under what has been advertised in the MLS. Please note that since the lender is taking less than what is owed to them in a short sale, the lender in some cases may negotiate a lower commission. What this basically is talking about is you need to negotiate in advance. Let's suppose we have a 6% commission. And in the MLS, you say 3 and 3. Some agents are sneaky. They say, listed agent gets 3, you're going to get 3. Oh, and by the way, if the lender reduces it to 5, listed agent gets 3, you get 2. Well, not a bad deal if you're the listing agent. Okay, make sure you have that addressed. If there's a haircut, who's taking the haircut? The industry norm is, well, if there's going to be a haircut, we're going to share. Okay, so if they take it to 5%, it's 2.5 and 2.5. That's what we're looking for.
But they have to state that
Correct.
in the bottom of the MLS.
In the MLS, well, this is the type of language that you would want to put in the MLS as well. But you're absolutely correct. It has to state that this is in the MLS. That the agents are understanding that if there's a haircut in the MLS, this is how it's going to be dealt with. Okay. This is more of a contract. And having said that, this isn't really a contract. This is more of a disclosure. But it's putting everybody on notice. Okay. What else do we got here? The seller is forgiven or canceled debt may be taxable. We're disclosing. We are not legal people, and we are not tax people. Okay? We do not give legal advice. We do not give tax advice. But we're saying this could be a taxable event, and sellers should discuss this matter with a tax professional. Okay? And then it's telling the buyer this has no bearing whatsoever to the buyer. Is that true? is the seller's short sale status of any consequence from a taxable standpoint to the buyer? No, it's not. Okay. Some cases, lender may pursue a deficiency judgment. We talked about that against the seller. This has no bearing whatsoever on the buyer. Okay? And again, by sign. So there's just a few things there. I like this. This kind of mirrors the short sale addendum in CAR quite a bit. But again, good form to use. Okay? And by the way, we got a lot of forms here. We have a thick file in short sales. And we haven't even got the listing agreement out. Okay? What's this cover letter say? This is a cover letter. I like this. This is a cover letter that you can use to, once you packaged everything up, your short sale package. And by the way, agents who are successful in doing short sales are mechanical about this. They have a routine, they use these forms, they have a package, they use a letter like this or this that basically puts everything in place. And this is a letter from you to the bank that says, here's the following. Please accept the following information. Property's been in the market. This is what we've done. This is our MLS description. This is what's wrong with the property. There are 31 properties just like this. This is what it's worth, given the current market conditions. This is where we think we should be. Please help us with our short sale. This is what the banks like to see. I would tell you, I would venture a guess that most agents representing short sale clients don't do this. What is this? This is kind of a narrative CMA from you to the bank that states the case, Mr. and Mrs. Bank, this is why you should accept a short sale on this property for this particular price. Okay? Sell it. Okay? Do their work for them. Show them why it is in the bank's best interest for them to take this sale. Okay? It's a great letter. You guys really should take a hard look at that one. Arm's length transaction. This is one thing that for the most part has not changed. I've talked about a lot of things that have changed and things that banks will do today that they would not do a year or two or three ago. One of the things that pretty much, it may change tomorrow, maybe it changed last week and I missed the letter, but arm's length transaction basically says that I own the house, I'm the seller, and I'm doing a short sale. Selena is my daughter, but she has a different last name. Nobody knows. You're going to write an offer. You're going to buy my house. Bank's not going to know. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to get out from underneath my $400,000 mortgage, and you're going to buy it, and you're going to get a $150,000 mortgage, and yeah. And basically, you quit claiming the house back to me, or it doesn't really matter, and I never move. Is that arm's length? Arm's length basically is saying, no, that somewhere that my family is within this arm. Okay? Can you do that? Well, you could if you disclosed it and the bank said sure. So far, they ain't doing that. Okay? Think about it. I mean, really think. I think that will probably, and who knows, there's so many concrete rules that have now changed in the last 4 or 5 years. But I think that's one that probably will never change. Because think about that one. Okay? Everybody and their brother literally would be selling their house to their brother. Right? Right? How easy is that? So they want to make sure that this is a true arm's length transaction, and that's what this says. Okay? And by the way, if it's not arm's length, and the seller and or you participate in a fraud, that's fraud. Okay? And from a standpoint of a real estate licensee participating in that, you can lose your license for that. Okay? So we don't do that. That's a problem. Okay, options for homeowners to avoid foreclosure. This is a disclosure that says, hey, then again, this is important, and you may think, well, wait a minute, it sounds like we're pushing our client in a different direction, we're trying to get a listing. Well, yeah, we are getting a listing, but number one, we want to make sure our clients have all the information available, and if after you've met with them for 2 or 3 hours, and they've decided, oh heck, we didn't even think about that. Huh, why didn't we think about renting out the house? Okay, give them the options. Because what we don't want after the fact is a successful short sale, and then them reading in the newspaper 6 months after the close of escrow that says a professional realtor should have gone over your options with you. And in my opinion, they should have said you had the option to do A, B, C, D. And then one of those is E, is rent the property. How come Lance never, God, man, if he would have said, and Lance does property management. If he would have said we would have rented the property, I'm going to sue that son of a gun. Are people in a foul mood today? People are in a foul mood. Okay? My gosh, everybody wants to sue everybody for everything. Okay? So anyway, the know your options are, hey, you could reinstate your loan, talk to your bank about it, make your payments up. A forbearance agreement. What's a forbearance? Basically normally says, okay, we're going to start over again. You're $15,000 behind in payments. We're going to start fresh in a month. We're going to take that $15,000 and maybe we're going to tack it on to the end of the loan, or we're going to do something different. Talk to your bank about that. Sell the property. Short sale. That's what we're doing here. Rent the property. Hey, I can help you with that. We do property management. Loan modifications. HAFA. Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternatives. That's the government program. I'm telling you, you better talk to them about that. Okay? You better understand this. Okay? Because they're going to understand it. And if you don't understand it, get educated about it. Go do a Google search on HAFA. The guidelines, a whole 9 yards. Okay, simple. We're not going to get into it because that's a 4-hour class. It's not that complicated though. A short refi. That's kind of what HARP is all about. Okay? Or HARP 2. HARP 2 is basically the definition of a short refi. HARP stands for, what is it? Home Affordable Refinance Program. Right? Something like that. That sounds good anyway. At least the letters line up. Okay, Home Affordable Refinance Program. Now the first one said you could refinance your loan if your mortgage was, I think, within 125% of value or over 120. So your loan was 125, but the value of the house was 100. You qualified for HARP 1. You could do a refinance program. Let me have the numbers off a little bit. HARP 2, which was just recently announced a couple months ago, and is going to be taking effect all of 2012 anyway. I think they're going to start funding those loans in a couple months, March of 2012. But HARP 2 now says there's a refinance program available through Fannie and Freddie that you can basically refi irrespective of the loan amount. So in other words, now I have a $200,000 loan on a house that's worth 200% over encumbered, not 125%. Well, now you qualify for HARP 2. So you might want to take a look at that. The challenge, the reality is, the sad truth about a lot of these programs is most of these sellers, in my opinion, they're done. They want out. There's going to be a lot of people who will take advantage of these different programs, but they want, because by the way, that's not necessarily with debt forgiveness. All that says is you could refinance your $200,000 loan and get a new $200,000 loan with a lower interest rate. Maybe save yourself a couple $100, but you still have a $200,000 loan. Now, if they start doing it with debt forgiveness, well, that's a whole different deal. And I know there are some cases, I've seen a few, where the banks are doing that and they're basically forgiving debt. We'll see. It's a whole other issue. Deed in lieu of foreclosure. Deed in lieu of foreclosure, for me, I think in most cases is not a good option for most of the buyers. Or excuse me, most of the sellers. If you're going to do a deed in lieu, let's try to sell it. Let's just try to sell it. Refinance, again, for most of these people, it's not an option. Bankruptcy, I don't really understand why this is on here. Matter of fact, it even says, homeowner with significant non-mortgage debt. Well, I guess what they're saying is if you BK your non-mortgage debt, then you can take that money to make your house payment. Okay? Service members, this is the Soldier and Sailors Act. There's an act. If you're in active duty military, you got some relief there. Homeowners Assistance Program. And short sale. I think I said, I don't know what the difference is between, did it say sell your house up here?
Yeah, sell property.
Oh, I guess up here, I guess they figure maybe you have equity. So sell your property with equity or your short sell. And I like this form. I think you guys should use this. You need to put it in every one of your packages, every single package. Okay, I think we're almost done. Buyer interview, didn't we do that one? Oh no, this is a buyer interview. Ah, I like this too. Okay, this is your. You want to talk to this about your buyer. Okay. Are you working with an agent? Actually, and this is great whether you're thinking of a short sale or not. We talked about scripts a little bit. If you're on the phone, who's taking lead router calls? Everybody's hand should go up, but half of you. Okay, if you're taking lead router calls and you're not quite exactly sure when they call, obviously, what's your name, what's your address? Here, why don't we ask some basic questions? I like this. This is a great form. First of all, it assumes that you're going to try to get some information. Hey, are you working with the real estate agent? Oh, yeah, I am. I'm working with my sister. Well, what are you talking to me for? Well, I thought you'd show me a whole bunch of houses and then I'd call my sister.
Red flag.
Right. Okay. What's your current deal? Do you currently rent or own? Okay, well, I rent. If renting, when did you leave? Yeah, great question. Okay. Oh, I'm in a 4-year lease. Oh. Okay. Is it month to month? When does it expire? I like that question. Okay. If you own, what's your plan? Is this a second home? And what are you going to do with that home? Oh, we're going to sell that one. You're going to sell that one? Do you need to sell that house before you buy the other house? Oh yeah, we definitely need to sell this one to get the money to buy that one. Do you have a realtor? No. Okay. Well, do you need somebody to help you sell the house? Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, after we're done looking at a couple houses today, why don't we go back to the office and do step 1 before we do step 2? And step 1 is let's find out what your house is worth. Maybe we get that one on the market, and let's start with that before we, no sense in going out and writing offers on houses today because you're not going to be able to buy anything until we sell your house. Ask them the question. On property search, what range are you in? What kind of property do you want? Single family, a duplex, a townhouse, a condo, yada, yada, yada. Are you looking for an old house, a new house? Bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, parkings. I love this. Time frame for closing. We've talked about a few of these closing questions. Okay, now again, how does this relate to a short sale? If you have a buyer that says, I have to close escrow before, and if that is an unreasonable period of time, oh, okay, great. I just want you to know, you have mentioned 4 houses that you really want to look at. You've driven by and you found them in the newspaper, so on and so forth. All 4 of those houses are short sales. There is no way on the planet that we are going to be able to close escrow before you're... So we need to look at something other than a short... Yeah, but it's the house we want. It's in the neighborhood we want. It's in the school district. It's across the street from Mom. Okay, fine, but we got to change this date. Are you agreeable that this date, and I mean we got to change this date. Are you willing to sit in this escrow for 12 months? Are you kidding me, Lance? No, I am not. Well, it's in the neighborhood we want. Are you sure? Great. I'm going to get my knife out, I'm going to cut your thumb, and I want you to put your signature in blood right on here that says you are willing to wait 12 months to close this transaction and find out what they're doing, okay? If you own it, again, I got ahead of myself. If you own it, you need to sell. Have you been pre-approved? Again, we're a little, this is more generic than short sale information, but if yes, who? What's their information? Yeah, I've been pre-approved. Who? Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't remember. Well, you remember the name of the bank? When did you get pre-approved? Oh, it was a couple days ago. Are you kidding me? If you've really been pre-approved, do you think you would at least remember the name of the bank you talked to?
Yes.
And if you can't remember the name of the bank you talked to, this is probably somebody we do not want you to do business with. Okay? Now, oh yes, I've been pre-qualified, and my rep's Sally Smith, and she was with Home Savings, and this is her contact information. I've been working with her for 6 months, and yada, yada, yada. Okay. I like that. Sounds like you're on top of the game. Okay. Okay, so all of those forms are on our website. Now, I said I wasn't going to do this, but I can't resist. Let's go into... oh, you know what? I took it off this computer. Okay, I was going to go into the WIN forms, and it'd take me a little while to get it loaded up, so I'm not going to do that. But we've spent almost 2 hours. We have not looked at the listing agreement, and we have not looked at a short sale addendum. Okay? Now, the listing agreement that we're going to use, for the most part, is the standard residential listing agreement. Okay? I like to put a lot of language in mine. I like to have all of these addendums to mine. Some of the language I put in all my listings, short sales or not. Seller may terminate the agreement at any time without cause. What? Yes, seller may terminate the agreement at any time without cause and penalty. What? Yes, I only want to work with people that want to work with me. If you do not want to work with me, you can cancel. Well, that's kind of silly. You're giving them reason to cancel literally with no cause. Yep, I am. Believe me, you do not want to be listing with somebody who doesn't want to do business with you anymore. Even if the reason they don't want to do business with you is unreasonable. Okay? Let them go. Oh, well, our policy says that if they want to file Martin, then the broker will reassign them to Matt. Oh, that's going to make them happy. They hate Coldwell Banker Martin, so they're going to love Coldwell Banker Matt. Right? Oh, yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. Do you know how many brokers, matter of fact, I think, to me this is a no-brainer. There are very few brokerage houses that I know of that have the policy we have. Matter of fact, they're all the exact opposite of the policy that we have. And whenever I tell other agents and brokers that I do, they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I'll tell you what, our clients don't cancel. And we tell them they can. And frankly, if they want to cancel and you did a bad job, what do I want to? I want to get that out of my face as quickly as possible. I want to get their memory of their bad experience with my company out as quickly as possible. Okay? And even if they do say, although they'll work with you, why do I want to torture myself like that? No, I'm not saying that we don't try to salvage these deals. But at any rate, we're going to put that language in there. We're going to put the short sale addendum in there. And the short sale addendum basically talks about all the stuff that we've already covered. Okay? Subject to lender's approval. And Okay, we've gone nearly 2 hours. We could go for 2 hours more. All right? Now, this is the deal. If you've been asked by me to come watch this video, okay, and you're now at the end and you're watching this video, the reason that I asked you to watch this video is because you probably come to me and said, Lance, I have a short sale appointment today at 3 o'clock and I need help. Okay? Well, that doesn't work. Okay? Short sales require a tremendous amount of preparation and a tremendous amount of expertise. And if you haven't watched this video twice, read these forms, which by the way, it's amazing what you can learn by actually reading the forms. Okay? Read the contracts, read the addendums, read these forms, read the listing agreement. Okay? Familiarize yourself with it. Because I will not be holding your hand on this type of a transaction. Shelley will not be holding your hand. Will we assist you? Absolutely. Okay? You go out, we'll help. But if you come to me and you know nothing about a short sale, other than you have an appointment at noon, I would suggest you have gotten step 2 in front of step 1. Take a day. Friday, we spent a couple hours going over some prospecting techniques, and hopefully a few of you are ready to implement those prospecting techniques to go out and try to get short sale listings. If you do not know how to fill out the paperwork, or you do not know anything about these forms, stop. Do that first. Take a day or 2 or 3, commit them to memory. Then, because bottom line is, how handy is it going to be? How about this? I'm just grabbing one of these forms. You're now on the porch of Mr. or Mrs. Short Sale Prospect's house. They are engaging you in dialogue. They are interested in more information. They want to set an appointment. Now, you do not want to do a 2-hour presentation on their front porch. But, well, I'm kind of concerned, what do we got to do? What are some of the things that we're going to need to do? Well, you're going to need a couple months bank statements and some your mortgage statements, and you're going to need some paycheck stubs, and you're going to need a couple months of tax returns, and you're going to need a financial statement, this sort of stuff. Okay? Well, how long is this going to take? It could take a long time. Okay? Who's your bank? Bank of America. Anybody know Bank of America does all their short sales on Equator? Okay, well, you need to know that. Bank of America has a new platform that they use. It's called Equator. It's an online system. It's very efficient. It's a good system. Who's your loan with? Oh, my loan's with Chase. Oh, that's really. Have you gotten any letters from Chase that said they'll pay you to do a short sale? Well, no. Okay, well, let's get your coupons out. Let's make some phone calls. Let's see if you qualify for it, okay? These are the type of things, if you want to have a more successful prospecting campaign, you need to do the homework first. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean you have to memorize this stuff and spend 3 months becoming an expert, going to every single class on the planet before you go out and knock on one person's door. That is not what I'm saying, okay? Because if that's what your plan is, guess how many doors you will be knocking on this year? None. Because you will never be ready, okay? Don't be one of those agents. Don't be one of those agents who is a professional seminar goer. All I do is go to seminars because I'm learning my trade. Now that is fantastic, and I am all for knowledge, but if you are hiding your real estate career behind a seminar, and that is preventing you from going out and knocking on the doors, stop, okay? So when I say go watch the video, that doesn't mean you have to have it down cold before you come asking for help, okay? But you at least have to do the basics. Okay, got time for maybe a couple questions if I don't see any hands popping up.
I do.
Oh, of course.
I got
There's
one.
always one.
I'm sorry.
That's
Well, I'm
okay.
getting ready to go do a short sale listing,
Okay,
and I haven't done one of these yet.
okay,
My client, he's military,
okay.
and he's getting new, what do you call them?
Orders?
Yes. So they want a short sale.
Okay.
So
There's a
it's
short
just
sale.
like, okay,
No
so it's
brainer.
just basically the same thing, right?
Same thing.
Okay.
He has a hardship. His hardship is, I'm in the military, I have orders.
And I gotta go by June.
I gotta go. I'm not comfortable renting my house. I don't want to be a landlord. It's not
Okay.
what I signed up for. There's his hardship.
That was easy.
As a property management company, what do you tell your sellers when they said, okay, you know what, all this sounds foreign to me, I'm willing to move forward, and they say, you know, what are my options now? I mean, do I go rent? Will I qualify? Or are they gonna, you know, just look at me bad and turn me down because I have this? What happens to me now?
Well, yes, I say all that, but the short answer is it's not really a problem. I mean, we have a lot of property owners, former owners, who not only have done short sales, but also actually lost their properties to foreclosure that we're renting to right now.
There's no time period or any kind of...
It's subjective. Different property management companies are going to have different standards, and they may, you know. But generally speaking, in today's market, quite honestly, in some cases, I like the property owner who had just completed a short sale, or maybe, as strange as it may sound, I like maybe the property owner who just lost their house to foreclosure. They had a $3,800 a month mortgage payment that they couldn't afford. They made, again, keep in mind, well, wait a minute, you don't have a job, you have terrible credit, and you lost your house to foreclosure. Okay, that's probably not going to work for me. But you have a job, you have decent income. Yes, your credit is bruised because of the short sale and or foreclosure, but, well, look at you. You are making you're making your car payment, you're making your other obligations. You obviously made a decision, financial or otherwise, that the house was too much for you. And you're going from a $3,800 a month payment, and we're going to rent you something for $1,500, and you work at the post office for 25 years and you have income. I like that tenant. I do. I like that. Not only do I like that tenant, I like that tenant for a lot of other reasons. That person may very well be the candidate that we're looking to become a buyer 2 years from now. And if that's where their mindset is, what are they going to do for the next 2 years? They're going to be paying their bills, including paying their rent, because that's what the lenders are going to look for, reestablished, and not just paying your house, paying your car, because when tenants go out and buy houses, you have verification of rent, VORs. We get verifications of rent all the time. Mortgage companies saying, hey, how about this Matt guy? Does he pay his rent on time? How many times has he been late in the last 24 months? Okay? Yeah. So the short answer is, it's not as big of a problem as you might think. And in some cases, I got to tell you, if we probably would lose 30% of our tenants if we had that standard so high. And a lot of these people are good tenants. They're very, very good tenants. Yeah.
Well, that's one. Okay, so the short sales, they may or may not get relocation assistance. It may, decrease the ding in their credit.
Yep.
What other incentive is them to go through a short sale rather than exercise a strategic default?
Well, in some cases, in some cases, it may actually be better for them to go to a default. There are certainly cases where depending upon the loan, it really has a lot to do with the loan, has a lot to do with what the advice they get from their tax professional and or their legal professional. But I could think of a few cases where it's actually probably in the seller's best interest to foreclose as opposed to default. Excuse me, as opposed to short sale. Now some of that's changed with these new laws that have been passed. These new laws that say, a lot of it had to do with the deficiency, the ability for the banks to come back and ask a deficiency post foreclosure. Because a lot of that's gone, in most cases it's going to be better, in the vast majority of cases it's going to be better for a seller to do a short sale than a foreclosure. Now, but with these old deficiency rules in place, in some cases it would be better purchase money loan, non-recourse. Okay? Meaning, if I let it go to foreclosure, they can't come after me. It's a non-recourse loan. Now I've just did a short sale. We've got new legislation now that's changed this a little bit. But I'm still suspect. I'm still scary. I'm one of the little fine print that says, okay, but under this condition, this condition, this condition, the bank can come back and get you. Okay. But prior to this new legislation, that was the bigger concern. If you had a purchase money loan and you did a short sale, there's some agents in this office that have done short sales on their properties or even lost them to foreclosure, and then get big bills from their banks after the fact. Yeah, and sometimes it takes some time to clean that up, right? It takes some time. Scary stuff. You know, some of those situations worked out well. There's some others that I don't know if they worked out well yet. So, having said that, this is the challenge with that. Even if you know that answer cold, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's two things that you need to do. Even if you sign the listing agreement. Hey, thank you very much for signing the listing agreement tonight. However, I'm going to say this for the 17th time as I'm walking out the door. You've indicated to me you've never spoken to your tax professional or your attorney about these type of issues. I'm asking you once again, go talk to your tax professional and your attorney over the next few days. Okay? Do they do it? No. But tell them again. Okay? Go make sure this is the right thing for you. Make sure there's not something special about your circumstances. The way you hold title to the amount of money you have. You're the unique tax case of the world that's going to be the next litigation against Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. Talk to your attorney first. Important stuff. Okay? All right, guys. Buyers and sellers buy. I don't want to do it, so I don't have any money. And here you are 9 months into negotiating this deal. You've got X amount of dollars on a commission, and you got to the point where the only way I'm going to get any money out of this is if I pay for the roof or I pay for the septic or whatever. It happens all the time. Sellers feel under no obligation to pay anything. You know, I've got a short sale going on with a buddy of mine down in the desert right now. We have about a $7,000 problem, which is a lot of money, but this is on a $520,000 short sale that the seller purchased this property for $900,000. So in comparison to the overall purchase price, and the seller hasn't made house payments for at least a year and a half. I mean, his house payment on a $800,000 loan, I don't know, but it was probably $4,000. Okay, so it was really, we're talking about 2 months worth of house payments. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, you haven't made a house payment in 18 months. Do you think you could just kick in the equivalent of what 2 house payments would have been so we can get this done? And of course the answer was no. You know, and then the buyer, are the buyers, you know, always excited, or do the buyers always have the ability to kick in the extra money? Because a lot of the buyers are, you know, they're thin as well. You know, low down payments or little down payment, whatever it happens to be. So who do they turn to? They turn to their agent. And frankly, even if they don't turn to the agent, a lot of times the agents turn to the agents because I'm into this for 8 months, we're almost to the finish line, how are we going to solve this problem? What are we going to do to solve this problem? So again, short sales are not for the weak at heart. Okay? These transactions, quite honestly, will kill a good agent. Okay? If you're looking for a good reason to get out of the real estate business, become a short sale expert. Okay? All right, that's probably a little bit of an overstatement. But I will tell you, are there people who do very, 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 very well doing short sale transactions and make a lot of money? Absolutely. They have a knack for it. They're good at it. They enjoy it. Diane Arnold in our office is a perfect example. Okay, Diane would say, Lance, that's funny, you know. But the reality is, if we were to interview 100 agents who have all done a short sale transaction in the last 6 months, I bet well over 90% of them will describe that as a horrible experience all the way around, from the process to the compensation to the whole deal. And if they had to do it over again, they probably, irrespective of whether they represented the buyer or the seller, okay? Because even though there's a lot more work involved when you're representing the seller and follow through, in my case, the short sale that we're going to talk a little bit about today, I'm going to talk about two of them, but on this particular one out in the desert, I'm representing the buyer. Not really a lot for the buyer's agent and the buyer to do during a 7-month window, except wait, okay? And either get disappointed, this particular transaction, the goal was to try to get it closed before Christmas. Well, that didn't happen, okay? Now we'd like to get it closed before this April date. That may happen. But it's tough. I mean, it's a tough transaction. And then, frankly, a lot of buyers lose faith in the process, and frankly, a lot of that loss in faith gets transferred over to their agent. Well, it's your fault. It's your fault. What are you not doing that you should be doing to make my transaction close? Okay, so they're tough. All right, so what we're going to do, and I'm probably going to need a little help from you guys because I'm going to skip around, and I do want to go through as many of these as possible. There's a seller interview question in here, and we need to rename these. These forms, A, B, C, D, elemental P, blah, 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 these are actually what they're called by the CDPE organization, okay? And by the way, if you are not a CDPE, you probably need to look into it. It's a 2-day course, 6 to 8 hours per day. It's not cheap. It's $700, okay? When you get the, you will learn some stuff. We're going to do maybe 2 hours today. We're going to do a condensed version, quite honestly, of the CDPE class. I could easily, I suppose, do a 2-day class on short sales, but you should learn a little bit. If you've done a transaction before, if you've done a short sale transaction before, you probably will learn very little, if anything, by attending the CDPE class. Having said that, there's some good stuff. There's some very, very good stuff here. Okay, so let's just go through the forms, and then we'll just kind of see where this takes us. This is a seller interview question. So this is nice. I like this because this helps you so you don't have to go through and memorize all this stuff. Pull out the questionnaire. These are the type of questions, quite honestly, when you are door knocking and prospecting, or when that person calls you on the phone and says, hey, I'd like to sit down and discuss a short sale with you, you need to have this. If you don't have, even if you have this memorized, get your list out. Let's ask some questions. Is your property already on the market? Yes or no? Is it listed? Yes or no? I don't know if it asks this later on, but it begs me to ask another question. If it's not on the market now, was it on the market? Were you listed 3 months ago, 6 months ago? What was your price? What was the problem? Did you get any offers? What happened? Well, some of that information you guys can get from the MLS anyway. As a matter of fact, some of that information you may have already gotten from the MLS. Maybe you were prospecting for expired short sale listings. Okay? That might not be a bad resource. Expired short sale listings. So it'll tell you, yes, they were listed for this much, and this is how long they were on the market. So, when was the property purchased? Why do we want to know that?
So we can guess what situation they're in. If it was in 2005,
yeah,
they're way under.
Oh, yeah. When did you get this? All right. What did you buy it for? Now, again, if we are the area expert, frankly, when they bought it is probably not as important as for how much they paid for it. So, hey, I paid $500,000 for it, which means nothing, really. What the real question should be, and maybe it's on here, is how much you owe on it. I don't really care what you paid for it, or when you paid for it necessarily. I want to know how much you owe. So anyway, when was the property purchased? What was the original purchase price? Who's on title? This is, oh, by the way, some of these questions, so far, So for all of these questions are good questions to ask any seller, whether they're a short sale candidate or not. Okay? I mean, this is information that you need to know. Okay, and I like this one. Who is on title? Why is that important?
Because they're the ones who can sell it.
That's correct. And not only they're the ones who can sell it, they're the ones who are going to be required to be on board to sell it. Okay? You have a husband and wife. You aren't getting along. Things are going bad. The wife thinks it's a great idea to do a short sale. The husband says, I don't care. Or actually, the husband says, you think it's a good idea, therefore I think it's a bad idea. Just because, right? Well, guess what? If both parties will not sign on the line that is dotted, we don't have a short sale. We can't sell the property. Well, wait a minute, Lance, the bank's the one that really determines it. Who owns the property? Who owns the property? The owner. The owner owns the property. The bank does not own the property. We could have an argument, kind of, yeah, sort of they do. But from a title standpoint, the property is owned by the mortgage holder, the seller, the owner. Okay? So now the bank ultimately in a short sale situation is truly going to be the one who's going to have the authority to bless the sale. But that also assumes that all the parties are going to sign. Who's on the mortgage? Is it possible to have John and Sally Smith, owner, and the mortgage under somebody else's name? Yeah, it happens all the time. Happens all the time. People quit claim. Maybe they buy the property for a kid and they quit claim off. So you want to know who is on the mortgage, and it's important you have that information. It's important you have that information because let's pretend I'm on the loan, but I quit claim the property over to my son and his wife. Okay? But I basically got the loan. Now I have a short sale problem. My son and his wife have stopped making the payments to my, happy surprise. Okay? Because whose credit's going to be affected by that?
Yours.
Mine. Okay, they decide they want to do a short sale. They list the property for sale. They sign on the line that is dotted that says we want to sell the house. Who is the bank going to talk to in relation to the short sale? Them or me?
You.
Me. Okay? So it's important we get that, figure out who is that person. And that happens a lot. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of situations. Yeah.
So is that possible? What would happen? Because there has to be the hardship letter, right? If you're in an okay position, that they're going to be like, you know what, you got to square this way with your dad, I can't help you?
Could be a big, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That could be a problem. Maybe not. We're going to talk about some things that used to be problems. Absolutely 100% disqualifiers. Okay? Discussion as to relate how we do the short sale and how, whether this is a transaction we want to move forward with or not. Now, and unfortunately, I don't think these are in any specific order. Matter of fact, they're probably not in the order we want them, so we may jump around a little bit. But one thing, before you even get to this point, we did a prospecting class last week, and it was a for sale by owner, expired listings, notice of sale, notice of default. Okay? One thing that, before you sit down and take a short sale listing, you need to do your due diligence. Okay? Is this a property that you have a reasonable, successful opportunity to close? If it is not, you should not be taking this listing. Okay? This is not charity. Don't take these listings because you feel sorry for them and you want to help them out. Okay? You're going to put a lot of time, tremendous amount of energy and effort into closing these transactions. And if you don't close, you don't get paid. And sometimes even if you do close, you don't get paid. Okay? Or you get paid significantly less. Okay? That's just the nature of these type of short sale transactions. There's kind of a good news and a bad news when it comes to compensation on short sales. The good news is if you do have a short sale candidate, you're sitting down with a seller, and you've determined this is a candidate of somebody I'm going to work at. We'll talk about whether they're a good candidate or not. But if you've agreed, yes, they are, do they normally argue with you over the commission? On a short sale, they normally don't, because the bank's paying for it. So you say 6%, you could say 8%. Most of the sellers, whatever, I'm not getting anything anyway. Resist the temptation to put in a 7% or an 8% commission, because right off the bat the bank is going to chop that down. Okay, but the good news is normally the sellers won't argue over a 6% commission with you. Okay, if they do, I would suggest that that's not a seller that you want to work with anyway. You know, and they're not paying it. You're going to argue over commission on a short. If anything, we should keep our commission rates where we think our value is, and never negotiate on a short sale, because you will never work harder on a transaction than you have on a short sale deal. Never work harder. So, at any rate, they don't argue with you in the beginning over compensation, but then normally you have a fight with somebody. If it's not the bank negotiating the commission at a later date, which sometimes they do, they'll sit back and say, no, we're only going to pay X amount of dollars for the short sale, or commissions rather. But if it's not them, there's something else that comes up. The short sale is approved, you're now getting ready to close, and the septic tank won't cert. Or it rains, and a roof leak appears that wasn't there in the beginning. All right. Okay, gang, we're going to do, today we're doing, what are we doing, short sales? Is that what we have on there? Okay, good, because that's what I'm ready for. All right, most of what we're going to do today, I'd like this to be a little bit more of an open dialogue. So it seems like a lot of our classes are a lot of me talking and you guys listening. So let's come up with some scenarios. Let's have a little bit of dialogue, and we'll see if we can't make this maybe a little more fun. Which should be good considering I am not feeling well today, so I'm not on my A game, so to speak. Okay, where we're going to start is on our website. Okay, and the reason we're going to start on our website is because on our website we have all of the forms for the CDPE. Is there anybody who's got the CDPE designation in the room? Okay, what that is, if you've never heard of it, is CDPE is an acronym for Certified Distressed Property Expert. Okay, they did not exist as an organization or a designation 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, and not that short sales just started 3 or 4 years ago, because we've been doing short sales forever. You know, the short sales are not a creation of the most recent real estate down cycle. They've been around for, I did them in the 90s. Now, having said that, they've evolved, they have changed dramatically. So, anyway, where we're going to start is on our website. If you go to the, you've got to go to the agent portal. There's a lot of goodies in here if you're not familiar with this. So on the far right side, or excuse me, far left side, scroll down under Other. You've got portal agents, portal staff, portal managers, but portal agents, that's what you're looking for. When you click on the agent portal, I've already logged in, so it's not going to ask me for a password. But if you're logging in for the first time, it will ask you for a password. It is protected. Okay. The password to get in is CBPRE agent with no S at the end. AGENT. Okay. Once you put the password in correctly, it will take you to this screen. And this is where our training calendar is, our market data, agent news, so on and so forth. A bunch of little doodads of what we're doing. You want to go to the agent, excuse me, I'm going to keep going, scroll past that. And you want to go to agent forms, okay, near the bottom. When you're at the agent forms, you can either click on the icon or click on view page, either one. And that's going to give you a whole bunch of forms. Now, some of the forms that we are, not some of the forms, all of the forms that we're going to discuss today are in the short sale forms. Okay? So, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through these forms kind of one by one, which is then going to prompt kind of the